Hello, welcome to Uncommon Leadership today. I'm Michael Hunter with Uncommon Teams. Today I'm talking with Louise Perold. Louise has been leading teams for several decades, first in South Africa and now in Portugal. She's been focused on quality throughout, including co-organizing a testing conference in South Africa for a number of years, and she's currently serving on the board of the Association for Software Testing. She readily says that she's made plenty of mistakes along the way. The problem-solving leadership workshop helped her understand herself better, and that better understanding has been key in her journey as a leader. My personal experience learning from Louise at many a testing conference has me greatly looking forward to our conversation today. Welcome, Louise.
Thank you. Thanks, Michael.
As you reflect over your journey to seeing people as people and learning to leverage their unique gifts to best accomplish your goals, what has had the biggest impact so far?
A lot of things, I guess. A lot of things probably in chain reaction with each other, maybe, or building on top of each other. So I think going back to problem-solving leadership, that was certainly something that was transformative for me, not only in how I see myself, but also in learning about how to observe a system, the difference between sometimes our observations and our judgments about those observations, and perhaps how to separate those two things a little bit more. And through that workshop, I also learned more from Johanna and Esther and Jerry and got into their work a little bit more deeply. Specifically, Johanna and Esther's book, Behind Closed Doors, that really helped me to learn the power of a one-on-one, especially if you think about it with a format in mind and think about it with a goal of not only looking at how is a person doing with the last piece of work or with their plans for their future work, but also just building a relationship with that person, starting to understand perhaps some of their life and what may or may not be affecting work, and also their hopes and dreams for the future, where they really see their career going, and how you can perhaps spot opportunities or see how within an organization you could help facilitate some of those things.
That's maybe the first book I read that really showed people bringing their whole selves into work and how to facilitate that from both sides.
Definitely. Yeah. And I had always thought, like, well, one of the big mistakes I think I made is that I used to have a daily meeting with the team, which I felt initially that would be sufficient for us to all get to know each other. It was definitely there was a focus about building a relationship as a team and understanding what people were perhaps challenged with and where they could ask for help and share knowledge, and we could grow as a team. And I hadn't thought enough about the individual and a space for me and the individual to also connect that was outside of the team, and where people might share completely different things and have you get to know a different side of somebody, I think, on a one-on-one basis than you do within a team. So yeah, just realizing, oh wait, I probably need to do this as well. And starting that journey was really important for me.
Are you generally more comfortable bringing up like aspects of your personal self in a group meeting, or are you more on the side who not so comfortable doing that?
It depends on the group and it depends on where we are as a team. I think it takes time for me to share personal aspects about myself in a group for sure. But often with the teams that I've led, I certainly get to that place. Yeah.
Are there particular tools that you found to help foster that sense of willingness to share who we are in a group setting?
Actually, a friend of mine, Donnie Rue, has a wonderful workshop that he does with teams where, and I guess it also depends on the stage of at which the team is at, but I think having something where you come together as a team and really talk a little bit about what do we value, what is our kind of getting towards your team agreement, or how do you want to work as a team, is an opportunity to just start to talk a little bit more about yourselves as humans. Something that he did with us was to share a timeline of our career even. But in that timeline of talking about your career, you inevitably end up touching on some other parts, and it's an opportunity to ask questions and for people to get to know each other. So that was, I think there's a lot of, that's just one example. There's lots of those kinds of things that you can do as a team to get to know each other better. And it obviously, remote has made some of these things a little bit more challenging, I would say, because when you're in a room together, I think there's a different feeling of connection.
It can
I
be
don't know
more
what you think. Yeah.
challenging over remote. Yeah. Needing to make that more explicit. I've been finding that for some people, being remote actually makes that easier.
That's very true.
Because
Yes.
they have more of a like energetic distance between themselves and everyone else. So rather than having the people that you're telling what your favorite food is or what you did for leisure last night or whatever the icebreaker is right next to you, for some people makes it a lot harder to be even that sort of socially acceptable level of intimacy, where if you're just on the other side of a screen, even though you know these are the same people that you were sitting next to you before a pandemic, it gives people enough energetic distance that they're able to open up a little more. And then also for some people, it's being in a space that's more comfortable for them, that they have more customized than maybe they're able to do at work, or certainly some random conference room in the building gives them more of a sense of who they are and groundedness to be able to be able to do that level of sharing.
Definitely. And I guess I think I've relied a lot on body language often in facilitating a session, or to kind of observe what was going on. But I guess that can also be a double-edged sword, because what you're observing might not necessarily be what you think it is. And I think in remote facilitation, it's definitely been an adjustment for me to try to find other ways to understand what maybe is happening for a person in a particular facilitated discussion or talk or one of these workshop type situations.
What are some of those other ways that you've been exploring?
I can't say I've gotten particularly good at it, actually.
Okay. I didn't say that you succeeded at. Just
Yeah,
what
no.
have you tried and what have you found
Well,
doesn't work with those?
yeah, I mean, it's I try to uh have a tone that is that sounds very weird. I try to maybe the word is be vulnerable in myself, like I said, it's, you know, present a vulnerable self in the hope that that will also help people to be a bit more comfortable. Um, and then I I guess use some humor where I can, or where I think it might be like usually in a self-deprecating way. I don't know. I don't think I've got that figured out for sure. And when people are in a meeting with their camera off, and it's just really hard to know what's happening for someone.
Yeah, it is.
Mm.
And that's a tough balance. Is
Mm.
as facilitators, we want to have as much information as we can have on what each person is experiencing.
Mm.
And for other people on the team, they want to have as much interaction as they can with each other person to really feel that there's someone there on the other side of that screen.
Mm.
And yet, for some of us, we just aren't comfortable showing our
Exactly.
background, even if it's blurred out, or just being on screen for whatever reason. And
Yeah.
so finding that balance where we can help everyone gets enough of what we need without
Mm.
having to stretch too far out of our comfort zone is I'm a really great way to start that conversation of here's where I'm comfortable, here's where you're comfortable, there's a space in the middle where we don't meet. How far out of where we are each comfortable do we want to go to work together better? And this
Mm.
is a really tangible example for a lot of people now that we didn't have before. But then getting into more things like, well, I really need time to think versus I just need to talk in order to think um, is maybe not as obvious as camera on or off, even if that seems like still a really obvious. Like, I just talk and talk and talk, and you never talk. Um,
I like those ideas a lot. Yeah. As you say, I think just even talking about it, right, is a good way to just surface the needs of people.
and it can work out to be a really nice way to start being vulnerable with each other.
Yes,
If we're
absolutely.
able to say, I just don't really want my camera on, not,
Mm.
without even having to say anything more.
Mm.
And we're also able to say, others of us, I really want to see like your face so I know that you're there.
Mm.
And it's not just 18 black rectangles on the screen that I'm looking at.
Mm.
Uh, can be enough to then open things up a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit
Yeah,
more.
sure.
If this is something that you're struggling with now, has there been, is there a struggle in your past as you've been on this journey that really transformed the way you are approaching this work?
Many. I think I, in my younger, uh, in my youth, um, I really tried to control a lot of things, um, thinking that, you know, not necessarily overtly that I knew best, but that I had a good way of seeing what was going on, and that I needed to, in order to create a system where everybody could do their best work, I needed to control a lot of things. And I think that hopefully I have somewhat let go of, not totally, I think, but it's a journey, right? So we try to let things emerge more than try to, and obviously there's certain things that I think are really important, and I use those things to hopefully then allow for the natural emerging of other things to take place. So just as examples, like having one-on-ones and having things with the team on a regular basis, the way that we as a team collaborate and do work. I think there's elements of that that I try to just put in place, and then we can experiment around those things. But certainly I hope that I'm a lot less like pedantic about certain things. Yeah.
So if before you were putting out a metaphorical obstacle course and making everyone run through it in a particular way, at a particular cadence, yelling particular things, now you're putting out structures that you find often are helpful, and then letting the team sort of wend their own way through that and discover over time which things are helpful, which aren't, and which need to be adjusted or tossed out, or new things brought in.
Exactly. And I think also just become a lot less attached to my ideas of what I think somebody would be good at or should be doing, or like I tried to just, that's, you know, if something sparks an interest and that is the direction, then we'll try to go there as much as possible. But not try to control that.
How do you handle cases where something needs to get done, but no one has an interest in? And the obverse of that, where someone has an interest that doesn't fit what the team needs right then?
So where it's something that just needs to get done, I think for me, there's ways to find joy in a lot of things that we maybe don't actually think are joyful in the beginning. And one of them for me is just collaborating on it. So pairing or ensembling on something, especially if it's, you know, challenging in any way. Might be challenging in a boring way or challenging in a, so I find just not being alone doing some of that stuff is really helpful. And the interest in something that's maybe not what we need right now, I'm trying to think the last time that really happened, because I think so much of what we're interested in, or especially in the quality space, if it's not exactly that thing, there's probably an opportunity for a slight deviation, but try to align it to the work that we are doing. So often there's an opportunity to do that. And I think, yeah, a real passion or interest from someone in a particular area is a gift, and we should just try to figure out how to make it work in the context that we have.
Which kind of fits back into the first part of your answer, that whatever we're interested in, there's always a way to apply that to whatever needs doing.
Yeah.
And the more we understand who we are, what we're interested in, the more we can find ways to apply that to what needs to happen, and the happier we all are. Because if we could just all the time be doing things that light us up, that would be amazing.
Exactly.
We may not be fully lit up, but there's always a spark that can be built up into a pretty good sized flame, usually, even if at first glance it seems to be just a total douser.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
So these are how some of your struggles over time have helped move your journey along. Have there been any particular successes that also have helped propel you on your journey?
I think just that feeling of a team that is bonded and doing good work together definitely is something that I like crave and want. And so that and that's probably a strange thing to say, the feeling. I don't know how to describe it better, but I certainly know when I have it. For me, I know when I have it. Yeah, it's and I when you say successes, it's difficult because I think I've been on great teams where I felt like we were doing great work, and perhaps the business changed, uh, or at one stage they completely changed strategy and outsourced all the work that we were doing to another party. So sometimes while you may feel like you have this great, well-performing, successful team, the context can shift, and you may feel like, well, were we that successful if people didn't really notice or think it was valuable enough? Or is it just completely, a left field business decision that no one really even knew? So that's definitely also something I struggle with still, is how to I mean, I keep trying to think of words, and they're all like how to have people, how to have, how to, how does one present this in a way, or show it demonstrated in a way that it is recognized? And I think that's a difficult thing for me. I don't know what your experience has been like.
Of showing the value of this people first approach.
Yeah.
Yes, I have some of those struggles as well, from both sides, both of explaining why a team is working really well that's doing this in a way that makes sense to people who this is not something they really considered or really understand. And also from the other direction of, well, why would I even start doing this? Like, there's all this squishy people stuff. And I'm just, that's not what business is. Business is supposed to be logical, objective, focused on the key indicators, data driven. This is all squishy. I don't know how to walk in the squishy stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. This I focus on, I try to bring it around to what do you want to do? What are you trying to get done? What is your goal for your company, for this team, for the organization? What are the struggles that you're having in making that happen? And what have you been trying that apparently isn't working? And what have you been trying that is working, but maybe isn't having as much of an impact as you want? And then sort of extrapolate from there of, so oftentimes what people are doing is they're bringing in parts of the squishy people stuff, but not realizing that's what they're doing. And if I can kind of show the thread of how what they're doing lines up with this approach, and especially going back to examples in their past where they were super excited and how much difference that made in their motivation and ability to accomplish what they wanted to accomplish, and then extrapolating to if their whole team was working that way. That's often a way to start.
Yeah, I like the idea of just trying to tie it back to the goals of the organization, and how, as you say, reflecting on what people are trying and what is working, what isn't working. Yeah. But I've also seen that there can be a tendency to think, okay, well, there should be a simple solution to this problem. The simple solution is just, do this instead of doing that, versus, I think what's important to me is that is understanding the system and how it interacts and what behaviors come out of that system. Yeah.
Yes. What seems to be simple often isn't. We're just not seeing or intentionally ignoring all the complicated bits. And what seems complicated oftentimes is actually simple if we look at it in the right way.
Yeah.
It's like when we're learning how to drive a car. Cars are really complex, but in order to drive it, all we really have to know is the steering goes right and left, brake and gas pedal, how to work those, and then how to get in and out of gear. And all the details of how the engine actually works and of all the magic that happens between pressing the gas pedal and actually going faster. Those are details that matter for driving. If you're in a race car driving, some of those details matter more. Other details matter even less. And the same is true in business, that all this squishy people stuff can seem really complex, but we don't need to know all of it up front. And we don't need to, as we become more capable with one aspect of it, then it becomes automatic, the way that all of the parts of driving a car become automatic. And then we can focus on learning another piece and another piece and another piece.
Yeah, I like that analogy. Okay.
This is being a lovely conversation today. What else should I ask you?
You could ask me about wine, but then we won't stop talking. So yes, no, I don't think I don't think I have anything else you should ask me.
Okay. What would you like to leave our audience with today?
It is, I guess, uh, maybe if you aren't doing any one-on-ones with your team, if you are like me in my youth and thought that just having the team focus was enough, I would encourage you just to experiment and try. And in behind closed doors, there's a great format for that.
And I'll include a link to that book in the show notes.
Oh yeah, cool. I forgot to put that in my list of links.
Yeah. What's the best way for people to connect with you, Louise?
Probably Twitter, or I'm still on Twitter, or email. It's good. Louise.perold@gmail.com.
And I'll have those links in the show notes as well.
Cool.
Any last words?
No, thank you, Michael. It's great to talk to you again.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here. And audience, thank you so much for joining us today. And if you'd like to have more conversations like these, uncommonteams.com has everything that I posted so far. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Thanks for joining us on Uncommon Leadership today. If you found these stories interesting, inspiring, and illuminating, sign up for my newsletter. Hop over to uncommonteams.com and use the form at the top of every page. You'll be the first to know about every new episode of Uncommon Leadership. You'll also discover how you can build uncommon teams. If you'd like to chat about doing that yourself, email me, michael@uncommonteams.com, or use the contact form on my website. Thanks so much.